Okay, we're here with the president. We're very excited to be here.
I'm very excited to be here.
Very grateful. Thank you very much. You must be a little wistful. You must feel a little like David Ortiz about a month ago, where you know you're going on to great things in the next chapter of your life.
I'm still hitting.
And you're still hitting.
But my feet hurt.
But, but you know you'll never quite have a job as exhilarating.
Well, you know, it is time. You know, I tell people that this has been a great run. I have loved this job. I'm not going to pretend that there haven't been moments of great frustration, but it is a singular privilege. I think I'm as good a president now as I've ever been because you learn stuff over eight years.
Sure.
You've sort of been around the track a bunch of times. But I also see now the wisdom of the founders that at a certain point you have to let go for the democracy to work.
So we're a week out from the election, and you're a history buff. I think when we look back, if Mr. Trump is defeated, I'm hopeful that the takeaway will be that socialism was not such a dirty word anymore because of our friend Bernie Sanders. And I'm just wondering, as someone who was accused of being a socialist before, what you think about the idea that in America, yes, we're capitalists, but some things just should not be for the profit motive. Health care, prisons, the military, elections, and I would add news gathering. People say get the money out of politics. I think you got to get out of the news business first, or we're never going to learn anything.
Well, a couple things I'd say. First of all, in some ways, the label socialism doesn't make that much sense in a context where there's no economy that doesn't have some socialist elements, meaning that there's some common goods that we all agree everybody should have. That's what Social Security is. That's what Medicare is to some extent. That's what public schools are. We all chip in to make sure that everybody, no matter the circumstances of your birth, have these baseline goods. And as you know, I felt pretty strongly that health care should be one of those goods. I've also said in the past that if I were designing a system from scratch, I would have probably looked at a single-payer system. But we do have legacy systems, and that's the only thing that sometimes when I've had conversations with Bernie, I've said to him, we don't start from scratch. You've got a $1 trillion healthcare industry, for example, and you got a lot of people who are working for it and a lot of special interests involved. And so my goal in the Affordable Care Act was if I can get millions of more people insurance, then that's my first goal. And then the question is, how do we make sure everybody ultimately gets it? Because there's still gaps in coverage. I think the same is true, you know, when it comes to some other issues. To me, I think there is a pretty bright line around prisons. I agree with you that the criminal justice system should not be infected by the profit motive. This is the awesome power of the state, saying we can take somebody's freedom away. We can lock them up because they've breached some part of the social contract. The notion that you might incentivize people to lock more people in or keep them there longer or not provide the kind of rehabilitation services so that they can get out of there, I think that's a problem. And so I'm very proud of some of the work that we've been trying to do along these lines. We got more work to do. When it comes to the media, that's a tougher call because, look, state-run media, that's what they got in
well, not state-run, but just like it used to be, where it was a lost leader for the networks. They didn't have to make a profit at CBS.
Partly because they had a monopoly, though, to some degree.
Right.
So they were fat and happy. In this kind of environment, it's hard to figure out how you would do that. But you know, I think the question I'd have when it comes to the media is how do we create a space where truth gets eyeballs and is entertaining, and we can build a common conversation. What is true, when I leave here, one of the things I'm most concerned about is the balkanization of the media, where you've got 800 stations, you've got all these websites. People have difficulty now just sorting out what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
And if you don't have some common baseline of facts, we can have a disagreement about how to deal with climate change, but if we have a big chunk of the country that just discounts what 99% of scientists say completely, it's very hard to figure out how we move the democracy forward.
Okay, let me ask you about a question that I know people who watch our show are interested in, which is marijuana reform.
Is that something that you care about?
It's something I care about. No, we both made jokes about it, but it's not funny to the people who get arrested, which is over 500,000, I think, last year. You and I both could have had our lives ruined, not really by smoking it, but by being arrested for it.
Right.
And, I feel like you had a checklist about, let's get rid of a lot of the stupid stuff, like opening up Cuba.
Right.
You came out for gay marriage. Right. I was hoping ending the drug war would be on that list. It's on the ballot now in 9 states in a week, including California for recreational and Arizona, and medical in places like North Dakota. Right. Isn't it time the federal government caught up to progressive states like Arizona and North Dakota?
Well, here's what I have always believed, that to the extent that the society legitimately wants to guard against any kind of substance abuse, that you treat it as a public health problem. Look, I'm an ex-smoker, cigarette smoker.
X?
X. And
really?
Yeah. I really
did you
am.
wink or did you get something in your eye there? I thought I caught a wink there. Okay.
I'm chewing the heck out of Nicorette. But,
really?
Yeah. But no, when I passed healthcare reform, that was, I think, I'd had my last cigarette. But the reason is because there was this enormous public health effort to get kids not to pick up smoking, and to make sure the parents felt guilty if they were passing on that habit to their kids. And so that's where I think we need to go with pot, alcohol, and so I don't think that legalization is a panacea, but I think that we're going to have a more serious conversation about how we are treating marijuana and our drug laws generally.
Okay, I want to ask you this question. Again, it's an issue I think we don't get asked a lot about, but it's important to my audience. I know people will roll their eyes and say, it's so California to ask this, but food purity.
Yeah.
Something that means a lot to me. Right. Somehow it got to be elitist or liberal. I don't get that, to want food that isn't full of pesticides, or food that wasn't created by torturing animals in factory farms, isn't full of antibiotics, which is a problem in itself. I feel like we're upside down on food. We eat too much corn because we grow too much corn because we subsidize too much corn. And, one of the problems with the Affordable Care Act is that people were found sicker than expected. And that's partly because of the food, I think.
And obesity and all the work that Michelle's been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But shouldn't food be put more at the top of the agenda when we come to addressing health care?
There's no doubt about it that right now we got a disease care system. We should have a health care system, and health care system would include nutrition, exercise.
But also pushing back on corporate.
Well, and so I think what is true is that for a long time, agribusiness has had obviously a prominent seat at the table in Congress. It's bipartisan. Some of the reforms that we've tried to initiate, for example, on the school lunch program, have actually made some progress on this front, and Michelle deserves a lot of credit for it, as do a bunch of organizations that have worked on this. I will tell you, and this may be controversial in some of your audience, it is important to look at the science on this stuff. So when it comes to antibiotics, for example, the science is clear. We pump our animals full of it, and that's not just a problem in terms of what we're ingesting. It's also a problem that more and more
Yeah.
Bacteria is becoming resistant to antibiotics. But in some cases, like for example the GMO debate, there are areas where there are legitimate concerns. There are some areas where the science seems to indicate, well, this is okay.
We just got back to the science, and it says it doesn't increase the yield.
Well, exactly.
And they use just as many, if not more, pesticides.
Right. Well, that's so. My point is that what we have to make sure we're doing, whether we're on the left or the right, is being driven by the science. And if it turns out that some of these genetically modified foods aren't healthier, aren't more productive, and use more pesticides, then we should follow the science. If in some cases they're not causing any harm, then we should follow the science there as well.
Do you think we ask too little of the public? Politicians, you know, of course, are always kissing up to the public and saying things like, if we only had a government as good as the people. Right. But the people aren't very well informed. They don't exercise their right to vote, and when they do, they don't know much about it. I just feel like we don't ask the people very much. We're afraid to ask the people, eat better. You know, the phrase was, yes, we can. I feel like they're not pulling their weight on the we. It's a partnership with them. Yeah. Eat better, vote more, learn something.
You know, I'm a glass half full guy and an optimist about the human spirit. You are right, though, that people are busy. They're stressed, and they don't have time to follow the intricacies of some debate around Medicaid or what's going on in Syria. And so part of when I say I want a government as good as the American people, what I mean by that is that I think people's instincts, their gut, what they want out of life and how they want to see people treated is actually pretty good. But the question then becomes, how do we get enough information in front of them to be able to make good decisions? I've always believed that if I could get into, if I could sit in the living room with every person in America that I've got the majority on my side, and a healthy majority on my side on every issue that we work on, just by having a conversation. The problem is we got all these filters. And look, if I watched Fox News, I wouldn't vote for me either, right? Because you've got this screen, this funhouse mirror through which people are receiving information. How to break through that is a big challenge. This whole conversation that's been had lately in the aftermath of the rise of Trump, this notion that part of what's happened is that both Republican and Democratic elites have neglected the white working class. And the truth of the matter is that every policy I've put forward would make a huge difference with the white working class and the black working class and the Latino working class, whether it's raising the minimum wage or the Affordable Care Act, giving people health care who don't have it and who are working hard and need help, or making sure that unions are strong so that you can have a little more leverage at the workplace, or making sure that something like the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is protecting against some scam mortgage. And what I'd like to figure out, and I think Democrats do have an affirmative obligation to do this, is to work harder to figure out in this new age, what's the equivalent of getting into people's living rooms and being able to have a conversation and being able to listen to people. And
I know you're off to Ohio, right? You've got an election to rig. I want you to get out there because, boy, it's a very nervous time for a lot of people who are worried about Mr. Trump.
The stakes are high. I know we were getting the gong, but I will say this: the choice in this election should be really clear. And anybody who's watching your show and was a supporter of mine, was a supporter of Bernie's, is a progressive generally. This idea that somehow, well, both of them have problems and
Yeah.
nothing will change
Ridiculous.
either way. Listen, all the progress we've made on climate change, Paris Agreement, HFC agreement, aviation agreement, the 20 million people who have health insurance that right now that didn't have it before, all the progress that we've made on trying to check the excesses of Wall Street and Dodd-Frank and the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, any chance of immigration reform, including the work that we did to make sure that these amazing dreamer kids all across the country who are now going to college or serving in our military are not suddenly deported or at risk of deportation. Every single issue that we've made progress on over the last 8 years is going to be on the ballot in the form of this choice. And I have worked with Hillary Clinton. I know her. And she is somebody who cares about these issues. She does her homework. She cares deeply about ordinary folks. Her policies are aligned with yours and mine. And yes, she is somebody who believes in compromise and that you don't get 100% of what you want. But you know what? That's the way this democracy works. Anybody sitting on the sidelines right now or deciding to engage in a protest vote, that's a vote for Trump. And that would be badly damaging for this country, and it would be damaging for the world. So no complacency this time.
So get out there.
Get out there.
Thank you so much. You did a hell of a job in this office.
Thank you,
I
sir.
know I speak for myself and my
It means a
audience.
lot.
It means a lot that you did this for
And
us.
even though I wasn't on the show that often, I watched it all the time.
Really?
I did.
Well, that's nice to hear. Thank you, Mr. President.
Appreciate it.